This video is to go over the setup and operation of a digital probe or a 3D digitize. So we're going to go through the settings on how to set it up with USB CNC. First thing you're going to do is go to your DWC disk, or if I provided the setting file, you are going to go to your disk, and it's going to look similar to this, and I will have a probe folder, and inside that you'll have DWC mill and the word probe in the setting. You're going to want to copy this into your same place you put your settings for the regular USB CNC, and that's in Windows, Program Files, parentheses, x86, and then CNC USB controller folder. Once again, your C drive into program folders, x86, and then in the USB CNC folder on that. And you're just going to copy that into here. Let me go ahead and copy that while I'm doing it. I can open two windows and drag and drop that over into that. I should have copied it. That way I have it in both spots, but I dragged it. But anyhow, make sure that those are there. Once you have that file in there, then we can open USB CNC and have the probing set up on that. So we'll close those windows. Let's go ahead and pull the USB CNC software here, and I moved it a little bit. Okay, so now once you have that setting file there, you're going to go to File, Import Settings, and that should pop up in the C drive, Program Files, x86, and then the USB CNC. And once you go to that folder where you saved that at, you notice the DWC mill probe setting. We'll click on that and open it. Now it's actually changing the settings in the background, but we're going to close that and open it again, and what you're going to notice is a different background. The normal machining is the wood grain, but for probing I did a metal with rivets, so that you know this is set up for probing. You can only use this setting for probing. Once you've done with probe, you got to go back to the other setting file, and that just simply go into File, Import Settings, and going back to what you were before. Should be DWC mill, probably 515. That's the latest that I have on that setting file. But you'll need to go back to that, and it should be wood grain. If you don't have that setting file, if you have an older machine, it may be something like a DWC mill something, but the 515 is the latest when I made this video. Okay, once we have that with the the metal with the rivets in the background, we know that that is set up. With your probe plugged into your controller, if you don't have it wired in, certainly if you're buying the probe after the fact of purchasing the machine, I can provide that wiring diagram, but it's just 3 wires put in two locations. Once you have that, one of the things you want to look and make sure the probe is working and plugged in is right down here where it says Tool 1 Unknown. If you will touch the probe, you see how when I touch it, it turns to sensor. The word sensor pops up there. That way you know the probe is working. On the probe itself, you will see a little LED red light come on also, and that would tell you the probe is working, but on the screen that sensor is working there. So once you have that down, then you know everything is hooked up on the machine. Now we just need to go over how to set up and how to do the probing. I will tell you that I highly recommend looking at the manual on this. By the way, the manual for the CNC USB controller, if you go to Help and click on Help again, it will pull up the manual, and I've got it up here. And what we're looking at is page 106. Now sometimes he will change the pages, add stuff to it, so it may be a little bit different than that as far as on your particular manual. you can go to Planet CNC and download the latest manual on that. But page 106 is what it is when we're doing this video. Not sure what that warning was. But if we scroll down, this page is pretty well the whole page on it, not a lot. But this is the manual part of what it is. And when we go to, and that's what we're going to do next, the setup digitize 3D, that is going to pop up the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about this screen a little bit before we get into go into it, and then you can see here, and it tells you the descriptions of each of the little what the paragraphs are. So I'd recommend maybe printing off this page 106 so you can go over this. I won't individually go over it, just make some of the highlights. X and Y, when you do the probing, is going to create a rectangle or a square area that it's going to probe. And this in here, what he has here is metric. Normally you will be working in inches, or certainly you can work in metric. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to have the USB set up. I will tell you that all the files that are saved in doing the probing is in metric, so you will have to do the conversion, which is fairly easy to do, but we have to do the conversion. So once you've went through that, we just go up to machine, we'll go to capture, measure points, and then we're going to go to measure, and then go down here to digitize 3D or set digitize 3D. So we're going to set it. This is what we set up here. Once again, the X and Y is your area that you're going to be doing. Your tip is your radius of that. But once again, pull up that manual and look at those, what each individual line, what its definition or meaning is, so that you can change it. There's a lot of different, or a few different things that you can change here and play with those numbers. I would highly suggest that you do a small area, because probing does take a long time. Two things that you're going to notice: the raster is how far it steps. That's your coordinate points, and if we were doing it where these dots are, and say that's each point, because it's going to go back and forth and read points, then it's going to go back the other direction and read points. This raster is the steps between each point. So the finer you make that, that's at 30 thousandths. Certainly that won't be real fine, but the finer you make it, the longer it's going to take. The coarser you make it, it's not going to be as smooth. So there's a trade-off between smooth and also how long it takes. Depends on your project, how smooth that you do it on that. So that's really the setup. What you do is make sure that your machine is at the lowest point, or at the lower left-hand corner of where you're wanting to probe. Take your probe and touch the board, like the picture there, and zero out your all the axis. So that is going to be your starting point. And then once you have that in that location, and have the part marked out, you notice I made a square on my picture that is 4 inches by 7 inches. So I put in that X and Y, 4 by 7, and then it is going to go back and forth across that rectangle on that. So once you have all the parameters set, you just simply go up to capture, measure points, and then digitize 3D. And once you click that, it's going to start moving and capturing those points. Once it's done capturing the points, it will stop, and then at that point is where you go up and you collect the information. You go to machine, capture, and set points, but this time instead of going over to measure, we're going to go down here and save points to. And you can save it in 3 different formats. Save points to STL file. STL file is a 3D model. So that's what you're going to be able to bring into Bobcad CAM or the Vectric, VCarve or Aspire. You can, in both of those programs, you can bring them in and do some changes to it. But the STL file is the 3D. Save points to G-code. That is if you just want to simply just create a G-code from those points, and it would just simply reverse what you've done. Once again, these files are in metric. You have to, if you do G-code, you have to put a G29, I believe is what that is, in front of your code, and that will do the conversion back to standard. Even though the G-code shows up in metric increments, that will convert it to your inches if you want to do that. And then the DXF certainly is another format on that. So you bring that file in. I'll try to show a little bit of a video of pulling the STL file into the programs and showing you what those look like. From here, once you're done, you want to make sure you clear, or before you start another probing action, you'll make sure you want to come in here and clear all the points, because once you do that probing, it's going to store those points in its memory, or that file in its memory, and you don't want to have multiples in there, so you want to make sure before you start that you clear all the points, clear the stored points. That way you're starting over from fresh.